Hello, hello. Hi. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for coming. I'm Kelly from Knit Swag. Sunday night, so we are going to talk about my favorite knitting book, Number Knitting. It is by Virginia Woods Bellamy. It is the new Always Stretch Method, published in 1952. I'm so glad that you're here. And I got my schedule all goofed up last week. July has been a very busy month for me, so I've had a little bit of a hard time keeping on track of things. But anyway, I'm here tonight, and I wasn't sure last week if I would be, but here I am. So thanks for coming. I did want to thank you all. It's been I've had a lot of research that I've been doing lately about Virginia and some of her poetry and some of her family, and it's been very eye-opening. And so I wanted to share with you some of the research that I've done. And as you know, we have talked in the past about how Virginia was a poet in her pre-number knitting life. She was I think she considered herself primarily a poet, and then the knitter was secondary. So most of her published works are in the form of poems in different magazines throughout her life. But I learned recently that she also had some of her works published in like yearly anthologies. And I found one of them today, and I actually found some correspondence between Virginia and the gentleman that put together the anthology. And I thought I would show it to you. And if you're new here, or if you're not, say hi in the chat, introduce yourself. I love to see who's here and who's with me on this Sunday night. So the first item I want to show you, it was a letter that apparently this man, Mr. Braithwaite, William Braithwaite, he had sent a letter to Virginia asking if she would give her permission for a certain poem to be included in his anthology. And so I want to show you that. So this is the letter from Virginia. And the way that I got this, incidentally, I did some research into I believe I had to contact Harvard for this, and I was looking through their catalogs, and I found a reference to this letter, and for $30 they scanned it and they sent me this copy, and so here it is. It says, and it took me a while to figure it out what it says because of the handwriting. It has an address at the top, 126 East 19th Street, New York, and it says, "My dear Mr. Braithwaite, you may certainly have the pleasure and give me the pleasure of including my education in your 1923 anthology. I have not yet collected my verse in book form, not yet having found my favorite publisher. Very sincerely, Virginia Woods McCall." And at the bottom it's dated October 6th, 1923. And I don't know if Virginia wrote that or if Mr. Braithwaite wrote that. But I just thought that was so neat that we have that now. And so I thought, because if you look at the picture again, it has an address at the top, and I wasn't familiar with, is that Virginia's address or is that Mr. Braithwaite's address? I wasn't sure. And so then just recently I discovered 10 minutes ago that it was Virginia's address. It was Virginia's address, which is wild. Thank you. I'm glad that you like the flowers. We're trying to. I spent the morning with Steve going to Home Depot and Lowe's and Home Goods and different places, trying to find shelving and get things figured out as far as tidying this up. So this is very much a work in progress. very much. And I still have all the pile of knits. They're just off in the other room right now. So if you ever want to see any of the knits, anything from the book, chances are it's like 5 feet away from me, so I could totally grab it. Okay, so this is next. Before I show you how I figured out it was Virginia's address, I want to show you the actual poem that was kind of like the subject of the video here. And this was published in the New Yorker magazine. And incidentally, I believe that Virginia's second husband was the editor of the New Yorker magazine starting in like the 30s sometimes. I don't know exactly when he started working there or if they like knew each other at this point. Nope, that's not the right one. Braithwaite. Of course, now I can't find it. Anyway, I will find it, and I will get back to you about that. But the way that I found out that this was Virginia's address. My research is very circular. So let me show you this real quick. Camera 2. Okay, so if you don't have a hard copy of Number Knitting with the dust jacket, and I'm guessing probably most of you don't, because it's very expensive. I think you might be able to find one for like, I don't know, $200 or $300. I think I found one in ebooks today for like $175. But like if yours doesn't have the dust jacket, mine does, and mine has an awesome dust jacket. You won't have this amazing like list of books in the back. This is on the, let me find it real quick. This was on the back of the Number Knitting book, and it was a list of the other books that Crown Publishing was putting out at the time. And it has the Bride's Encyclopedia, the Book of Furniture Decoration, How to Make Draperies and Slipcovers, the Book of Table Arrangements, the Art of Flower Arrangement, Home Entertaining, Tools and How to Use Them, and the International Cookbook Series. I haven't been able to get a hold of any of these, but I have been able to get a hold of this one, and this is gold. I actually got a copy of it from the library. This is the second time I've done that. I did it once like 5 or 6 years ago, but I got a copy again for research purposes. Okay, so the Bride's Encyclopedia, I looked it up on WorldCat, and it's got a whopping total of 17 copies in existence, I think, around the world. And so it is probably more rare than Number Knitting. There's no ISBN number because I don't know when, I think ISBN numbers came about in the 60s. And so it's like not even listed on Amazon. And like if you Google it, like a whole bunch of other books come up, but not specifically this one. So this one is really hard to find. And I love it because it was published a year before Number Knitting. And so like if you were a new bride in the 50s and you wanted like advice on, everything about being a new bride, what it means to, take care of your house and like how often to clean your house and, what kinds of meals that you should fix and like how to repair your clothes and like how to, like, what are the best ways to clean things and like how to throw elegant cocktail parties, like everything is all in here. And it's awesome. So let's take a look at it. This is called Bride's Encyclopedia, and it had a whole bunch of different contributors to it. It's edited by Dorothy Sarah, and it was put out by the same publishing company that did Number Knitting. Okay, so I'm just going to read through the major sections of this. Section 1, Etiquette for the Newly Married. Section 2, The Hostess Entertains. Section 3, Parties and Games. Section 4, Budgeting for Happiness. Section 5, Interior Decorating for Now and Later. Section 6, Kitchen Layouts and Equipment. Section 7, Good Hints for Good Housekeeping. And it just goes on and on. There's food facts, flowers and houseplants, sewing for your house and wardrobe, home nursing and first aid, and beauty and charm. So I thought it would be fun to go through just like a little tidbit from each section over the coming weeks. I'm going to go to page, I believe it's on page 15, and this is in the etiquette for the newly married. So these are things that you should be concerned with as a newly married wife. Okay, so here is where there's sections in here about like how to introduce yourself and your in-laws and your family and thank you notes, and it's very specific about how to do all of these things, how to address, cards and calling cards and how to write letters. But the thing that got me today that I found was this little guy right here. It talks about stationery for you and him. Many homes have at least 3 types of writing paper. Really? A large single sheet for the man, a good grade single sheet and or folded paper for everyday correspondence, and a paper of recognized superiority for state occasions. Consult your favorite stationer where you may choose the most suitable papers for your home in style and color. Okay, that's very specific. And the examples they have here, they look like they're embossed and they're monogrammed, but this letter here has got the address pre-printed at the top. And I looked through some vintage correspondence online, not just this letter from Virginia, but like other vintage letters as well. And you see that's exactly what she did. She put her address at the top right-hand corner of this letter. And so, and this was dated in 1923. So she was still Virginia Woods McCall. She hadn't become Virginia Woods Bellamy yet. That happened a few years later. So this was Virginia's address in 1923. So of course, I had to look it up. And you know what? It's for rent. It is for rent. Oh no, it's for sale. Here we go. This is great. Okay, so this is where Virginia lived in 1923, and I think it's a duplex. One part of it is a 2-bedroom, and one part of it is a 1-bedroom, and it's small. I mean, it's small to me because I live in the country and I've got plenty of square footage, but maybe for New York this is like palatial. I have no idea. Yeah, so that's where Virginia lived. And if you want the 1-bedroom, it's only $1 million. And if you want the 2-bedroom, no, it's a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, it's $2.5 million off market. So someone else already owns this. But there you go. That's where Virginia lived in 1923. I would imagine that they probably had the 3-bedroom portion, because at this time she and her husband had he probably was born in, I think their son was born in 1915, so he would have been about 8. Yeah. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. And I go down rabbit trails. It is late. If I was looking to move, I don't know that I would move to the city. If any of you are from New York and you know like where that is, like it's in Manhattan, I think. And I, being not from New York and I traveled to New York once when I was in the 8th grade, and it freaked me out because I was a country kid and all the buildings in my town, like the tallest building in town was 3 stories tall, and there was only one of those. And so I went to New York, and like the buildings are so tall, there's no sunlight on the streets. It's all shadows, and it just freaked me out. And the elevators were too tall, everything was too big, and it was so scary for me. So I'm a country girl. I don't really like big cities. But if you're from the city and you know, like, if that's a nice area, let me know. And I'm very curious about that. Anyway, That's the first installment of the Bride's Encyclopedia, and there's going to be so much more. And okay, as you know, I went through, in like 2015 or 16, I went through the laborious process of scanning this because there's so few copies, they're so expensive, and this is worth saving. Like, more people need to have this. And then I decided, because this book, this Bride's Encyclopedia book, is so good, and it's just got so much interesting history in there, like about appliances and, you know, cleaning methods, and like how often you should dust your sofa, and just like how to have the best party games, like all kinds of stuff. It like captures American mid-century culture, and I love that. And so I know I bought my scanner with the intention of scanning all my McCall's magazines, because I have a decent sized collection of these. I have, I don't know, 20 or so of these, but I need to pause on that because this book is due back August 8th. I do get one renewal, but I calculated, because it's 300 and, how many pages is this? 310 pages if you include the glossary, what's it called? Index, the index in the back. And so if I scan 30 pages a day, every day, between now and the end of the first week of August, I could get this back in time, and I could still have my own reference copy. So that's what I'm going to do. Yes, I think cities, there's things about cities that I would love. Like, I would love having access to like a better grocery store selection, because if like we want to go to Whole Foods, it's like 40 minutes away, or like the Trader Joe's, you know, it's like 30 minutes away with traffic. And so there's not a whole lot of selection for certain things, but I really like my space and having my neighbors far away. We lived in an apartment for a long time, and we had shared walls, and I don't know, maybe they were just like crummy apartments that didn't have any insulation, but like we heard a lot more than we wanted to, and so I really like not having to share walls with any other families. Okay, so yeah, I haven't found that letter. Let me check one thing real quick. I might be able to find that letter, that the poem that she sent to, that was published in Mr. Braithwaite's anthology. I'm going to see if I can find that real quick. I might not be able to. Nope. Okay, next time. All right, another thing I wanted to talk about in the book. I like to go through all of the book and research all the people in number knitting to find out, you know, who Virginia cared about and what was important to her. And we're going to be looking on page, it's at the beginning, it's the dedication page. And this says, dedicated to my favorite knitter, Laura Hall Woods, Aunt Polly, my Aunt Polly. And so I did some digging to find out who in the world Aunt Polly was. So this gets a little tangled. It was a little weird to unravel. But Aunt Polly, and I don't know where the name Polly came from. Maybe it was just a nickname. So Aunt Polly was Virginia's aunt, obviously. But I was like trying to figure out like which side. And I was like, oh, it must have been like because the last name was Woods, and her paternal line was named Woods, because her dad was Frank Churchill Woods. And so I did some researching on archive.org. You look in the book section, all text, and you can just type in, you know, the person's name, put it in quotes, and like stuff comes up, and you can like select a year range and that sort of thing. Aunt Polly was the wife to someone named Hiram Woods. So let me show you that. Also, This is the Abe Books listing. I think I put a link to that down in the description below. It just came up. I think it was just recently listed. Yeah, and it's $175 if you want a hard copy. Incidentally, like 8 years ago, I paid $150 for mine, so this is not actually that bad for the hard copy. It does have a dust jacket, which is great. Okay, so who is Hiram Woods? Let's take a look at that. Hiram Woods was Aunt Polly's husband, and he was an ophthalmologist. This is an article from the MedChi archives, and I don't know what MedChi, I don't know what it is, maybe a professional organization, not sure. But Hiram Woods was Virginia's father's brother, and his father was Hiram Woods Sr., who owned Woods Week Sugar and Rum Importers, which eventually merged with another company to become Domino Sugar. That sounds like money to me. Looking back, I don't know what Domino Sugar was like, in the 1800s, but nowadays they sell it in every grocery store. To me, Domino Sugar sounds like money. So he received his AB, I don't know what that is, from Princeton College, 1879, and was a close friend of President Woodrow Wilson then, and for the remainder of their lives, he was an honorary pallbearer at the president's funeral. So Hiram Woods was like very well respected in the medical community. I mean, he still is. Like, there's still articles about him. I think I found one in the JAMA website. So he was very, very educated, very well respected. And incidentally, I was looking in the archives for Hiram Woods, and I found some information. I think it was like a Princeton alumni, and he's listed in there. But interestingly enough, Frank Churchill Woods, Virginia's father, is also listed in the Princeton alumni. So they were there. I think they were there probably roughly the same time. I haven't checked the dates on that. But Hiram Woods became good friends with Woodrow Wilson, because Woodrow Wilson was also attending Princeton at that time. Later on, he went to become the president of the Princeton, and then the president of the United States. So this is like the Virginia's family circle. It's becoming a little clearer to me, because I was thinking, like, I knew that both of her husbands, her first husband and her second husband, were like, they're in the literary field, and like, I get that. I'm not in the literary field, and so like, I don't really know what that means. And I know that like society class structure was a lot different in like the 1900s than it is now. I think now it's a lot more egalitarian. I don't know that it was so much back then, but the fact that Virginia's uncle was a pallbearer at the president's funeral. And I think Wilson died in the 30s. And so when that funeral took place, Virginia would have been like, she was born in 1890. She would have been about 45, and she would have had two small children at that point, because her second son and her daughter were born in, I think, 29 and 31. So she was a young mom in her 40s when her uncle was going to the president's funeral. So that's kind of interesting. Okay, so I kept doing more research about. Let's see. I'm going to look at the comments real quick. Rose says, "I've seen the book for $400 to $6,000." Wowzers. Associates in business, it might be the AB, might be like, I've heard of BA, like Bachelor of Arts. Maybe it's Arts of Bachelor, or like Baccalaureate of, I don't know. I guess I will research like the different degree symbols, acronyms, that they had in the 1800s, because apparently they're different than now. So anyway, if any of you happen to know, let me know. Per Dr. Google, AB is a BA. Well, that makes sense. Yeah, maybe it's influenced by Latin. Yeah, maybe so. Yeah, maybe so. Okay, so Aunt Polly. There's also one more thing on Hiram. He actually, here we go. Let me open that. Okay, I'll show you. Do camera 5. It's got some other stuff in the background, but take a look over. Like, this is what I want you to look at. Maybe I can make both of these bigger. There we go. So I found this in the archives. This was letters from Woodrow Wilson, like in his letters. And it says from Hiram Woods, and it's from Baltimore, December 12th, 1910. So Virginia would have been about 20 at this point. And he wrote this letter to Woodrow Wilson, who wasn't yet the president of the United States. Wilson, after he left Princeton, there might have been a break there, I'm not sure. He went and he served as the governor of New Jersey for a couple of years, and then he went on to get the nomination for the presidency. And you know, like, whatever your feelings on if he was awesome or if he was awful, because usually anyone who knows anything about Woodrow Wilson, they're like firmly in one camp or the other. And so, but he was the president, and he instituted a lot of the things that we still have today. He was ultra progressive. So however you feel about that, that's who Wilson was. I don't know if that has any bearing on, like, I don't know how the Woods family was. I don't know. But he wrote, so Hiram, Virginia's uncle, wrote this letter in December of 1910 to talk about, I don't know, coming to an event. And I don't totally understand it because, like, I wasn't part of the conversation, obviously. But anyway, he mentions specifically, the way I found this is because it has Laura Hall Woods in there. She was part of one of the events that I did, and that was his wife. Yeah, so that was pretty neat. So I went through the ancestry records because I got a little puzzled. I want to find out when Aunt Polly was born, or Laura Hall Woods was born, because there was a couple of in some more of those letters from, like, in Wilson's collection, there was also one that said Laura Hall Woods was born in 1890, and I was like, hold on now, that doesn't make any sense, because Virginia was born in 1890. Like, Laura Hall Woods wouldn't have been born in 1891. Like, her favorite aunt is going to be a year older than her. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. And so it turns out that Dr. Woods, Hiram, and Aunt Polly, they had a daughter who they named Laura Hall Woods, and she was born in 1891. And apparently in the letter to the president, somehow it mentioned she fell and broke her arm. Laura Hall Woods' Aunt Polly was actually born in like 1860, 1862, something like that. So, like, she and Hiram, Dr. Hiram, were like the same age, and kind of like in the same, few years of age as both of Virginia's parents. So that makes sense. So I was digging through the ancestry records, trying to, like, figure out these dates. And then it says Laura Hall Woods was a sister to Virginia Lee Woods. I think it's Virginia Lee Woods. She was a sister to Virginia's mother. I was like, wait a second. I thought she was related to Virginia on the father's side, but now the ancestry is telling me she was related to Virginia on the mother's side. Like, what? So apparently, Virginia's mom and Virginia's dad, they both came from big families. They were one of, I think they had 13, each of them had 13 brothers and sisters. And Frank Churchill, Virginia's dad, one of his brothers was Hiram. And Virginia's mother, one of her sisters was Aunt Polly. So they're two siblings, and they got married. And so that kind of makes sense. Like if you have it's not like marrying your cousin, but it does kind of make sense that like, the two brothers both found a couple of sisters that they liked and they got married. So Aunt Polly is like from both the maternal and the paternal, like married into the paternal line, but she's related on the maternal line. So those must have been some wild family parties. Because I have one sister, and like our family parties were 5 people. And so can you imagine how many, like hundreds of people would show up? And this Bride's Encyclopedia book, it says that the wife is generally the one for handling the correspondence. And once you get married, you're basically going to have extra work to do because you're going to handle the correspondence of both sides of the family. With 13 brothers and sisters on both sides, that's like what, 26 aunts and uncles? And that's not including like second marriages. That's just first marriages, assuming everyone got married. Like, holy cow, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. Double aunt, yes. Oh my goodness, that's a lot. That is a lot. But we're going to dive into this more because I'm going to scan it. Okay, so I haven't been able to find out anything more about Aunt Polly, anything else besides the fact that she was married to Hiram, and she she wrote a thank you note in the official formal method as outlined in this book. But I haven't found anything else on her. Maybe that'll come. Okay. So that was my archival research for the week. Rose says, my mom and my aunt married brothers. Yeah, and my aunt is the only one with my last name. Huh. Yeah, these family, like, I guess it would be a lot more common with bigger families. I don't know how big Baltimore was in the 1800s, like the late 1800s, because that's when the family was there. I think, actually, they're still there. I called and I emailed the church that Virginia's father started in 1912. Yeah, 1912. So right around the time that his brother Hiram was like corresponding with the soon-to-be president, his Frank Churchill, Virginia's father, was starting a church, and he started it, and he didn't take any salary for 6 months. And I wonder, like, is that because he came from a sugar, like, wealthy family? I don't know. Maybe he did something else in addition. But yeah, so he was doing that in 1912, and I don't know where I was going with that. Anyway, let's talk about number knitting, because that's really why we're here. We're going to talk about the 5 points scarf. First of all, this was our, I remember what I was going to say. So I contacted the church where that Virginia's father started, and the pastor actually, I sent him a letter, and he actually got back to me, and he said that he would look through some of their archival materials and talk to his church people and see what he could find out. And I guess I guess it would have been about 12 years ago at this point, they did a centennial celebration, and because they're still there, the church is still there, it's still active. And so the church historians went through and they tried to find all the Woods descendants that they could. And they gave me some names, and one of them, he's an attorney. Well, I think he's retired now, but he was an attorney still in Baltimore. Like, I don't know, 200 years after his family moved there, still there, which is pretty neat. But he's retired. He's not listed on the law website anymore. Okay, so we're going to talk about the 5-point scarf. Have any of you cast on for this? I've been debating about how to do this, like what other color combinations I could come up with. I'm just not sure. So I thought maybe y'all could help me with this. So this is the 5-point scarf. It's got great shoulder coverage. You could tie it around your head if you want. I wove in my ends this week. So this again is from the This is the picture from, it was a McCall's magazine advertisement. I think this was from Number Knitting pamphlet number 2, and we don't have that one yet. But I was able to chart it from the picture, and I thought it would be fun to do some color combinations from it to, like, you know, work out some ideas. So I was wondering if you could give me some suggestions, because I thought about stripes, just like one ridge of each color, but it got really busy really quick, because I feel like to pull that off, they have to be, the colors would have to be close enough that it's not like making your eyes jump like an optical illusion. But then that might get a little boring, and I thought maybe like 2 ridges of each color, and then I just like gave up. So I thought if you wanted to see it like in different colors, like I could live here, I could draw out, you know, this example in different colors with stripes, or, you know, whatever, or maybe like even draw in the orientation of the, like adjust the way that the triangles are made from like a right triangle. There we go. From like a right triangle to like a divided triangle or something, so we could see possible different ways that this could be constructed. So I'll start with that, because I think that would be a worthwhile explanation. All right, so I'm just going to change. I'm going to change some of these to a divided square. Just to see what that would look like, because in doing this, it's going to change the way that the ridges go. So now the ridges are going to go like this, which is different than what they did before. They were you know, strictly vertical before. Now this is going to keep the lines on the bias still on the bias. Like these bias edges here are still going to be biased, but the orientation of the ridges is going to change. And so I thought that might be an interesting adjustment to this. And if we did this in different colors, like lock some things down. So if we did this in different colors, that could be interesting. I like pink and blue quite a bit. You probably know that, because most of what I make is pink and blue. It's a little garish, but that's okay. I'm gonna adjust that here in a minute. Okay, so now I've got this different color, and what I can do is I can, this is called a recolor, and I can just like change the way all these are set. So it makes it really easy to like mock up different color combinations. There's also a way you can just like twirl these little circles around and really have some, it's just super easy to mock up colors. So what do y'all think about the diagonal? Let's see. Hey, Stephanie. Medium gray, white, or cream, and a pop of poison, like a bright yellow or a bright orange. Okay, let me do that. Medium gray. So let's do we'll change this to orange. Nope, that's not right. We'll change that to orange. We're going to unlink these. And then the other one is going to be like a medium gray. Yeah. That's not a good orange. Pop of poison. That's interesting. And if I was to take this guy and move him up here, put that in the back, and maybe that's like the cream color. What do you think about that? Whoops. Ha. Come on. There we go. Apparently I've got some extra like transparent white things covering that up, but that's kind of interesting. Huh. Rose says black and white or gray and white for neutral blending. Ooh, I know what we're gonna do. Okay. Gray and white. Yeah, so what if we did this as a blend? So this is going to be white, and this is going to be gray, and we're going to blend them. Ooh, that's neat. And then if we did that like a blue color, crank that up a little bit more dark here. That could be fun. So if you did this in like a color, oh, let me get rid of those numbers real quick. If you did this in like a color, like a fading yarn, a long colorway fading yarn, and you worked it as a mitered square, that's how you'd get these, those angles that are still the same. See how it fades, you know, from one to the other. Whoops. Ooh, that's fun. Got some extras in there. There we go. And so now I can change the, like, what color it fades to. So like if you wanted to go from a yellow to a gray, or a yellow to a pink, or, you know, whatever, like whatever your fade of your colorway is, you can, it'll just change because it's like a blend mode. What about if we did that one like a bright orange? Huh. That's kind of fun. Oh, and this whole time I haven't been showing you my screen. Sorry guys. Anyway, that's what I just made. Let me show you that again. Okay, so you missed all of that, and it's all my fault. So I made these as a blend, so that it's going to blend here from gray to white. But if you change the color, it's going to still blend. So depending on like what colors you choose for your blend, like if you wanted to blend the whole thing, you could do that. Let me object blend release. Okay, so we're gonna blend from gray to white. Or gray to peach. Object blend make. But if you change this color, it can be, it affects the whole blend. So if you're using a color changing yarn, you can see what it's going to look like in advance by setting it up with a blend mode. Now I'm gonna remember to put it back on the screen again. Sorry about that. DJ says she wants to see blue-green. Okay, I can do that. So we're going to do this one. I wonder what that would look like as black. This one is blue. And this one is going to be like a green color. That's kind of fun. This kind of reminds me of Noro yarn. Because, Noro, it's a long color changing, but it's not just like one or two colors. It goes for like, it's got really, really interesting color repeats. And this white here is not blending because it's not part of the blend group. So if I wanted to make this whole thing blend, I can do that. So I'm just going to go to blend release. And now I've got the blue and I've got the green and I got the peach. I'm going to blend all three. So object blend make. And so now you can see what it would look like, in a Noro or some sort of a long color changing yarn. And at any time, like if you, let's say you had the colors are like consistent as far as the amount of yardage they take up. What's going on here? I see what's going on. Okay, so if you have a smaller stitch count like this cream, it's gonna have a more. It's gonna take up more area. So like if it's the same number of stitches here in blue, it's going to be a shorter number of rows. And so like the green would take up a little bit more and the white would take up even more if your length of color is consistent. And so there's ways to replicate that as well. Depending on the square number, the gauge and number cast on per side. Oh, DJ wants to know how many skeins for that. So this one, I think this is like, they're like 100, there's just 2 100-gram balls, but I only used about 60% of each 100-gram ball. So on this size, this is knit on, for the most part, this was knit on number 7s. I screwed up at the beginning and I knit the first bit of it on size 6. And so I don't know if you can tell. Where's my let me get my tape measure. So I gotta take better notes. So like this first side, it is 12 inches. And then when I realized later on, like I grabbed the wrong needle, as I do. And then when I knit my other rectangles or my other triangles, they're like, this one is 16 inches. Yeah, so that is my bad. But so this whole thing took like probably about 120 grams of yarn. And this one is Tosh Merino Light, and this is like essentially the same thing but a different brand, very, very slightly thinner. Not that much of a difference that I was gonna worry about it. So DJ asked about fractal color changes. I'm trying to understand that because I know it's something that you can do in spinning. I've never done it because personally, I'm not a huge fan of like the whole barber pole look. Like that's just not my thing. Unless like one of the stripes in the barber pole like matches the other. Yeah, I don't know. I've never done fractal spinning, so I know it's very cool and you can get some really interesting colorways. I don't know how I would illustrate that though. I'm not sure. Maybe I need to Google that and figure it out. Yeah. But yeah, so this took about 120 ounces. Now, you might want, let's see, here we go. You might want to make yours bigger. I think mine could have been a little bit bigger. And it depends on you. Like if you're a bigger person and you need a bigger scarf thing, then make one. I remember years ago I made a scarf for a friend, and it was like an infinity cowl wrap sort of thing, and it was so big on me I could like wrap it around my head and wrap it around my shoulders, and it was big, and I was like, oh man, this is so great, I love it. And so I gave it to a friend of mine. She's 5'9" and she's not small, and she put it on and it was like it fit here, like it didn't wrap around her shoulders because she's like way bigger than me. And I put it on and I was like, well, that doesn't feel like I thought it would. So like the size of your scarf, if you have big shoulders, you'll need to make it bigger. Mine, I think it's like 27 inches across. Let me see. I think, whoa, that was my plan. It's 26 and a half. So I'd say that's a success, even though I screwed up on the needle size on my first two triangles. Rose says 2 strands knit as one would work, and then change 1 strand at a time. I see. Okay, that makes more sense. Because I understand that to be something called marling, M-A-R-L-I-N-G. That's what I think of it. Because like that's always knit with 2 strands, and they're different colors, and you just change out 1 strand at a time, and it gives you like gives you different colors. I don't know exactly how we could illustrate that. I'll think about that. Actually, I know how I would illustrate that. I do. All right, let me see if I can pull it off. All right, so we're gonna unblend this. We need a solid color background. Boop-a-doo. I think this will do what I want. I'm not entirely sure. Let's see. Not really. How about this one? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how I don't know how to illustrate that. I will think on it though, because that's an interesting thought, is to do it marled. All right, this wasn't on my agenda, but I need to show you guys something that I found this week, and it's amazing. Mary, nope. It's in my Ravelry library, so I'll show it to you in Ravelry. So I found, you guys know that I like to, well, maybe you don't. I like to combine techniques. So like, well, it's in the closet, so I won't get it right now. Like I did something a while back with, it was combination modular knitting and pooled yarn, and it was so fun. It was so fun, and it was called, I called it No Breaks, and I know I have a picture of it here. Here we go. I got a couple of them. This is my Instagram profile, and so this is a combination of two techniques. It uses modular knitting, so each one of these little squares is a separate, distinct unit, but you combine that with pooled yarn that DJ made, and I was able to take this pooled yarn that is hand dipped, like dip dyed yarn, and so it's variegated, and normally when you knit variegated yarn it gets real stripy, but when you knit it like this you can keep everything tidy and all the colors like sit in their own spot. And I did the same thing here, but it was on the diagonal. So the whole idea of doing combining two techniques, modular knitting with pooled yarn, you can make these really cool effects. And so I found this fission knitting is what it's called, and I say this because it's here we go. All right. This is wild. I mentioned this because you brought up the marled technique, marled knitting. And so what this lady figured out how to do, this is all marled. So it's garter stitched using 2 strands of yarn. Love it. They're contrasting, which normally I'm like, 2 strands of yarn contrasting is just like, it makes me feel a little uncomfortable. Like, I'm weird like that, but normally I would not knit this. But then she figured out a way to do cabling, contrast cabling over the top of the garter stitch. And you guys, it's 2-sided. It's 2-sided. Are you kidding me? It's 2-sided. And they can both have different cable designs. Is that insane? And it's marled and it's 2-sided, and you can use long colorways, and it's like, good gracious. So I'll put a link to her stuff down below. Her name is, it's this one, Mary W. Martin Knits. So if you want to learn about fission knitting, that's pretty cool. So here's my thought. Because knitting this isn't just enough. No. Now I've got to knit it with marls and cables on it. So like because what she did is like just like singular unit knitting, but her 2 techniques were the marls and the cables. I love that. And they're 2-sided. So that's sort of like 3 techniques. But I was thinking like, what if you did the marls and the cables and you did it modular? And so it would be like the squishy garter stitch 2-tone cabled double-sided masterpiece. Like, yeah. So that's what I'm thinking about doing next. Yeah. Rose asks, I use bright colors and I struggle with contrast marling. I do. It's weird. It's weird. I feel like the marled colors, it just feels a little mixed up to me. I don't know. But when you add the cable on top, then it'd be like, okay, well, now it makes sense. Now it makes sense. Yeah, so Maura asked, what about stripes? Let me see if I can do some, stripes here. Were you thinking, Maura, about doing the stripes just with the existing way that in the scarf is, like this, like not changing it into a mitered square and just adding stripes here? Is that what you're wanting to see illustrated? Because I could totally do that. Rose did inlaid brochure, inlaid brioche mitered square. What? Oh man, that's awesome. That's wild. But let's take a look at this and see how we can make stripes out of it. Okay, so here is our pattern. We're going to add some stripes to this. There we go. Illustrator, I'm using Adobe Illustrator, by the way. Illustrator has got some great built-in patterns, decorative, basic graphics, lines. There we go. And like a lot of them, they're just kind of, well, that doesn't work. Let's move that up out of the way of the grid. There. They're like for architectural sorts of designs. So they're not, it's not super exciting, but the cool thing is about this is you can just go in and like, you can edit the pattern. There we go. So like if I just wanted to edit this and, you know, change the colors, I could change the color, make different colors. Like we could have one set of stripes be one color and another set of stripes be a different color. So I'll do that. Got my snapping turned on. There we go. So I edited the pattern, but then now I can also use, I can edit the colors here in the, because I added more stripes, I can edit the colors here in this color wheel picker thing. So like if you were having if you wanted to experiment with different color harmonies, this is a great way to do it. And by dragging outward, you get more saturation. By dragging inward, you get less saturation. And Illustrator also has all these like different color modes that you can use. So like if you're, you know, if you prefer sliders, you can do the sliders. And see how when I crank up and down the brightness, that moves this line here. You can also change the temperature. It's a super fun tool. I love this tool. I do a lot of colorway mock-ups here. But that's what the, like if we were to do a striped, let's move that around. Oh, got to turn my snapping back on. View, snap. So I mean, it could get a little busy. Oh, you know what? This isn't totally accurate because these stripes are going in the wrong direction. So let me fix that real quick. We're going to go to transform because there's a setting in here for transform object only or transform pattern only or transform both. And I had transform object only. So now I'm going to choose transform pattern only, and I'm going to, transform pattern only. It should work. There we go. Because if we really want it to look accurate, this is what we need to do to really see how those stripes are going to line up. I think, let me see how this works. So we got, okay. Because every triangle is the garter ridge orientation is opposite of the one next to it, which is one of the genius designs of this pattern, I think. Except for here, like these two go in the same direction. And I wonder if I screwed up. Maybe. I did. I did screw up. Look at that. Okay, so this this bottom one here with the diagonal line going down to the left, is supposed to have vertical ridges. That looks vertical to me, because that's what this one has. And this one here on the top has horizontal ridges. So I made mine incorrectly. Yeah, I made it wrong. I guess I need to make another one. So it is Maura says just stripes within the triangles, not martyred. Okay, yeah, I attempted that. DJ wants to try two-toned symmetrical repeating. I don't know what that means. What is two-toned symmetrical repeating? I'm going to need a little clarification on that. I think the marled technique works really well with two colors that are actually close together, but then create a third. I have seen some marled yarns that, like, they're designed to be worked together in a pattern. Like I had bought some yarn a few years ago, and it was probably like 150 gram cake, and it was ultra lace weight yarn, but it was four plies stranded together, but not like four individual lace weight yarns stranded together, not plied together. They were just sitting next to each other. And over the course of the ball, the colors changed. I think I can find it, because it was really interesting, and it was supposed to be worked like as it came out of the ball. But of course I saw 4 plies of yarn, and I was like, I could totally deply that. So that's what I do. Yeah, so this is what it was. I think I had this is the one that I had. It was marled, but it was 4 plies of this lace weight yarn, but I deplied the whole thing. And then I was like, well, now I've got like 4,000 yards of yarn to work with. That took weeks, which is stupid, but it was therapeutic. But what was interesting, it wasn't just like consistent, because I thought it would be like a consistent marl across, but like, so go from like white to light blue to medium blue to dark blue, like all the way across, and it would just be, consistent in that. But like sometimes it went from white to light blue to medium blue to light blue, then back to medium blue to dark blue, and so it wasn't consistent in like the way that the yarns were put in there, and that was surprising. But it made for interesting yarns, and you can kind of see it like in this orange one. It goes from green to yellow to more green to more yellow to more green to more orange to more yellow, and so it's not like in a purely linear fashion. Yeah. Where were we? A solid, I think that a solid and a speckle, I tried that, and I tried it with, it was like a light yellow, and then the solid, and then the speckle was like a DK weight with yellow and greens, and they looked gorgeous together on the shelf, just gorgeous. And then when I knit it up, it was like one ridge of each. I was like, like that's a lot. There was a lot going on. And, maybe just because I'm like more, I don't know, reserved in my fashion choices, because some people, they can like totally rock the bright colors and like the really wild patterns and like get away with it. And I'm just like, I just don't know about that for me. I love solid colors, and so when I do patterned yarns or speckled yarns, it's like, I want everything to be tidy and predictable. That's why I did the no breaks patterns, because like, okay, all of you pink bits, you stay in your little spot, and all of you blue bits, you stay in your spot. Like everything is tidy. So, and I love working with variegated yarns. I just have to really, really figure out how I want to use them. And then they turn out amazing. It just takes me a while sometimes, longer than I would like. Rose says, if you look at a grayscale of the yarn, if they're close in the gray, the eye will blend them. This is true. I learned that. I took a few art classes in college. Probably some of the most valuable classes I took in college were as electives at the local community college. They cost me $11 per unit. But my art teacher said, that was one of the first things I learned, was she's like, okay, what you do is you squint your eyes very, very, very tight, and so almost nothing comes in, and then everything just shifts to grayscale, and then you can see like what the tones are, and that has to do with the rods and the cones and the eyes, and I forget which one, like what the, like some of them are just on the outside and the other ones are just on the inside. I think the cones handle color and the rods handle grayscale, and I think the rods are on the outside. I don't know, I forget. But like if you squint your eyes, everything goes to grayscale, and so you can see the tonality of it without having to take a picture of it, open it up in Photoshop, and run a grayscale filter. Watch Barbara knit. I've seen her a little bit. She has patterns for variegated yarns. I'm gonna have to take a look at that. I'll have to take a look at that, because I'm maybe not as adventuresome as I should be. Yeah, probably. Yeah, so anyway, 5 points. 5 point scarf. So I'm gonna have to knit another one of these. I still haven't decided on a stripe effect. I was thinking when I was not in front of my computer, like, well, I could just do, oh, hold on, sorry. I could do maybe like, instead of each one of these as a whole square, like maybe make them like, so this part is a square, a separate square, and then like this is a separate square. And so instead of 6 squares, you'd have 12 squares, and those could be alternating in colors. That might be kind of fun. I'm thinking I might try that next, because that feels like more approachable to me. It's still kind of like the color block look, but it's not going to be so busy with all the stripes. So I think I'm going to do that next. And I'm going to fix this whole thing, because this is wrong. I mean, obviously I'm not going to fix this. I mean, I could, but No, I won't. I'll just leave it and I'll make the next one correctly. Yeah. Oh dear. Okay. Let's talk about the bodice blouse. So I went through and I finished the sweater. I wove in all the ends. I found one stray end. That's the last one that I found. I was so excited to try this on. I wanted to be like emotionally ready because I finished it and wove in the ends and I was like, I'm exhausted because there was like 100 ends to weave in, it felt like. And so I waited a couple days to try it on. But before I did, I laid it out on the table and I measured it, which, you know, one should probably do with a, you know, gauge swatch and all that. But you all know how I am with gauge swatches. Like, that's they're optional, right? Optional. All right, so I'm gonna look this up in the bodice blouse in the book, so we can see. It's on page 218, so we can see what Virginia says about this. Okay, so this is bodice blouse with cape scarf. I haven't got to the cape scarf yet. I'm still trying really hard on this bodice blouse. It says size small, 30 to 32. For larger sizes, add 1 stitch to each box. For size 34, 1 box is 11. Size 36, 1 box is 12. Yes, I did that. It says needles number 6, 7, 8, 9, and 13. She only gives a gauge for needle size 7, and I got gauge. Pretty sure. Well, I should check. Pretty sure I've done this before. Needle size 7. So needle size 7, the back is knit on size 7. Let's take a look at that real quick. All right, so this is the back. So if I've got five stitches to the inch, I should have 10 stitches in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes. Okay, I got gauge on size 7, which is the only needle she specified. I did the let me show you how this is put together. Okay, so here it is. This is the front. In the pattern, the borders consist of all of this, these like bigger units that wrap around the back. And so the borders is a pretty significant amount of knitting, because normally a border you'd think it would be not that much, but here it's kind of a lot. And I counted, I got like the right number of squares here according to the pattern. And I knit the borders on the, hold on one sec. Is the screen blinking? Yep. Awesome. Okay. So we're having a problem with camera 3. So that might need to go into the shop. We'll just do camera 2. So the neck seemed to me kind of big. Bigger than I would have liked. I measured myself and my favorite fitting tops. So this is on my clavicle area. My favorite fitting top is right around 8 inches. But if you look at this up here, this opening is almost 13 inches across, which is big. It's really big. And that's probably one of the reasons I put off trying this on for 2 days, because I was like kind of preparing myself for what I do might be coming. I have not blocked this. I have not washed it. So it might grow even more. I don't know. And I followed Rose's instructions for how big to make the sleeves. And I was so hopeful about this. I was so hopeful. I haven't done the buttons yet. Like this part fits, it fits pretty good, like the bust area. It's a little low. It's like an off-the-shoulder sweater. So maybe Anita, hey Anita, maybe Anita is right, and I just need to add like a whole nother row of squares around this, the whole thing. Because I did the squares I did all the borders on a size 6. And so I'm thinking, because it needs more at the top here, it just needs more coverage of the whole thing, needs more coverage. We're going to have to fix camera 3. Sorry about that. My wide shot is not working right now. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to add more borders to try to fill this in. And I'm going to do them on a smaller size needle. Yeah, but let me show you real quick about the buttons, because where I'm at now is, it was a point of confusion for me. So she says, for waistband, use number 6 needles on divided squares. I did that. Oh, also it has a gusset. It has a gusset in the back. And so she says it's optional, but you can make a divided triangle to fit that in. And it actually, I think it would work really nicely. So I'm gonna do the divided triangle there for the gusset. But the part that confused me is after the gusset, she says, next up, the scarf. And I'm like, hold on now, what about the buttons? And so there's like 2 paragraphs of instructions for the scarf, which is like 2 pages down in the chart. And then, oh, by the way, after you're done with the scarf, here's instructions for the buttons, which was a little puzzling. She actually has you do like the little crochet flower buttons. They're basically like little double crocheted wheels. And then she says to chain them together and outline them in like a silver, outlining whip stitch with copper or gold or silver tinsel, which I have. And I want to stay true to the book, so that's what I'm going to do. But yeah, so all of these 5 buttons here, they're like linked all together, little crochet buttons linked together with chain stitch. She had you put the pattern, let's see, it's a little hard to see here, but these little lines here, those are buttonholes. And so she has you put a buttonhole in between each of the units on the front. And so if you look here instead of like when you're picking up your divided square, instead of picking up all the stitches here and all the stitches here, you pick up, one side, and then these are 12 unit squares. So I picked up 12, then I picked up 5, and then I just cast on 2, and I skipped 2, and then I picked up another 5. And so that makes these little buttonholes, and I did that on both sides. Yeah, because I guess you overlap, and then you put the little flower button thing through both of these. Yeah. So okay, I'm gonna follow Anita's idea and add more small squares, because in the original book she says you can add another large square up at the top, and then the front and the back they would match, but then the sweater would come up to here. which seems a little odd. So I'll just do some more smaller squares to try to like cover, to try to give myself a little bit more coverage. One last thing about this pattern that I'm just having a hard time wrapping my head around, because Virginia was so understated. Bodice blouse. Here it is. It's in the caption. She says, knitted on a succession of needles and shaped by the varying size, the bodice blouse is a perfect fit for the slight figure worn with cape scarves. Well, what the heck is a slight figure? I'm guessing maybe like not curvaceous, because the girl in the picture, she's like, and you know, I'm not really, like I've got some up top. And so maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe it wasn't designed for someone with my shape and like her size grading method. Like, I don't know, something is wonky there. Yeah. Okay. Mishibi had, oh, Bub says real quick, adding more borders will not lift the front bodice, it will only cover the neckline area. But if I add more borders, like if I add more all the way around, it will, and if they're on a smaller needle, I'm thinking it'll kind of tighten things up, because this sweater, it wants to fall off. And maybe like if I was like my friend, you know, 5'9" and about 50 pounds heavier, maybe it would fit me better in the shoulder area. Because the rest of it fits really nice. I mean, it's like got a nice waistline. It fits up to about here, and then that's where like things go sideways. And the sleeves are kind of long. Anyway, maybe it'll just, after I'm done, it'll just end up going to a 5'9" friend of mine. Perhaps. Oh, Mishibi has a question about the winged blouse. My number 3 triangle has a long center. I think it is the knit two together and SSK pushing it out. I'll post a photo in the group on Ravelry, but have you seen that on triangle 5? Triangle 5 or triangle 3? I have mine right here, so we can look at it together. Let's see. Winged blouse. Okay, winged blouse is on winged blouse. My triangle 3. So here's triangle 3. So what were you asking about? You were asking about triangle style 5. I'm not quite sure I understand. Bye, Anita. Yeah, triangle. Yeah, post a picture in the Ravelry group and I'll take a look at it, because I'm not clear that I understand. Oh, camera 3 seems to be behaving right now. Just kidding. Okay, so here's camera 2. This is the center triangle. It's like an adapted unit. I think what she's referring to is this sleeve here. She says it's on page 24 of the book. Triangle. Oh, a divided triangle. I see what you're saying. So she says triangle style 5. Page 24 of the book. So these are the 7 units of number knitting. You have the square, the rectangle, the right and left triangles, the divided square, the divided triangle, the single wing, and the double wing. And so Mishibi is asking about triangle number 3 in the pattern, but it's style number 5. So that is the divided triangle. And she says it has a long center. I think it is the knit 2 together and SSK pushing it out. I'm not exactly sure what you mean, but I wouldn't worry about it too much. This is my triangle 3, and it's got, like, it's really lacy, but this unit, it's a sleeve unit. And so when you put it on your arm, it's going to kind of stretch itself to the shape of your body. And so even if it looks a little weird flat, it's okay. It's going to stretch. Like, you can see how this triangle here, it totally stretches into like a different shape once it's actually worn on a person's body. So I do post a picture of it in the Ravelry group, but I'm confident it's probably just fine. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's 7:30. Wow. Where's the time gone? Dear. Okay. Yeah, so that, it's been an hour and a half already. I've had so much fun tonight with all this historical discussion and talking about like the marling and you guys sharing your ideas with me. I am going to look for Watch Barbara Knit and check to see some of her variegated yarn ideas, because I could use some ideas for that. But yeah, so I'm just going to this week continue my research, and I'm pretty sure I'll be here next week, and I'm gonna cast on another winged blouse, and I'm gonna do it properly this time. Oh, one thing I did want to mention, it did go fast. When you're doing your winged blouse, something that I screwed up, but let you learn from my mistakes, because there are so many. So when you pick up from a unit, there's always going to be a right side and a wrong side. Like I picked up on the right side here, and so all of the little purl blips, they're going to be on the back. And try to make sure your purl blips, I mean, if it matters to you, it matters to me, because I like all the colors to stay in their own lane. Make sure your purl blips are always on the same side. I did that everywhere, but here, the last unit, I picked up from this side, and so when I flip this over, all the purl blips are back here. So what I should have done when I picked up this unit is I should have done it from this side, so the purl blips would have been hiding. I mean, I don't know that it really matters, because I'm going to be like wearing this thing around, tied around my neck. That might also be part of the problem from like me knitting one of these in the wrong orientation. Who knows? But anyway, just be sure that all your purl blips are on the appropriate side, however you prefer them. Yeah. Whew. What a night. All right, friends. I think that's it for tonight. So thanks for coming, and be sure to check out some of the links below, like if you're interested in that number knitting book from ebooks, or any of the other archival research that I posted. And that's it for me. Again, it's number knitting, and we will see you next week. All right. Bye, friends.